The Flyers need a center. It seems like Robert Thomas in St. Louis is available. Should they go all in for him? Why haven't we heard it? Find out on the Shootout. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Shootout. I'm Bill. This is Charlie, and the Flyers need a center. So we're going to talk about one of the ones who might be available today, Charlie. Robert Thomas of the St. Louis Blues. His name has come up in a lot of trade rumors lately. Rob Thomas will be, well, he's smooth. We know that.
Extremely.
He's going to be 27 on July 2nd, so very much a player in his prime. 20th overall pick in 2017. That would have been nice to take. Anyway, he's got 12 goals, 23 assists on the season. That's 35 points in 43 games as of this recording. He is a productive, I would say, basically 1C in the NHL. His scoring numbers are down a little bit this year, but the Blues are 28th in scoring overall, 25th on the power play.
Yeah, they have the second worst record in hockey. They're real bad.
If he could be helping them more, but if your whole team can't score, it's tough to be a point-a-game player, and that's basically what is going on with him right now. He's averaged 77 points in 74 games over the previous 4 seasons, so he's right there. He's one of those guys that the Flyers badly need if they are going to take the next step anytime soon. He's in year 3 of an 8-year deal with an 8.125 cap hit, so very, very affordable in terms of the going price for one season this league. The question: should Danny Briere go all in for him?
Well, I don't love that framing because, like, should he go all in? I guess it depends on what you mean by all in. I wouldn't want to trade one of Matvei Michkov or Porter Martone for him. Should he be interested in Robert Thomas? 100% he should be interested in Robert Thomas. The Flyers are not good down the middle. You look at their centers, like they're trying to, and this is no fault of his, but they're trying to sell Christian Dvorak as a 1C. He's a 3C on a really good team. Maybe he can be a 2C if he's got really good wingers. He's certainly not a 1C, but he's a 1C on this team because they have no one better. It's a glaring weakness, and Robert Thomas is a guy who, number one, is good. Like, he is a clear-cut 1C. Maybe he's not a superstar 1C, but he is absolutely a first-line center at the NHL level, and he's available, and he's still young enough that he theoretically could fit the Flyers' timeline for contention. It's not like he's 32 years old. He's still in his mid-20s. You still have probably another 3, 4, 5, even maybe even 6 really good years of Robert Thomas to come. So he makes a lot of sense in that regard. So would I make him like the guy where we're giving up everything for him? No, because he's not an elite hockey player, but he's a very good hockey player at the team's biggest position in need. So they absolutely should be interested.
Yeah, he's like 53, 54% face-off guy over the last few years. So that's obviously a huge issue for the Flyers. A lot more goes into playing center, but it's nice to win a face-off every now and then.
That'd be cool.
He is a guy who could help them in that regard. In terms of the price, Charlie, Elliot Friedman said on 32 Thoughts at the end of February, the price for Robert Thomas is very high. Either another young player younger than Thomas who's a potential 1C, we know the Flyers don't have that, or a Quinn Hughes type deal, the package that got Quinn Hughes from Vancouver to Minnesota, 2026 first, Marco Rossi, Zeev Buium, and Liam Ogren. That's what they got back. Do the Flyers have the assets to make this work without Michkov or Martone? Because that came up.
Yeah.
Apparently there was at least a call.
Yeah.
And it was like those two aren't on the table. And Vancouver was like, well, then we're not continuing this conversation.
Yeah. I think in theory, but a lot of it depends on whether they like the guys who you would offer up. Like, the one thing that's kind of been lost in the Hughes stuff is that I don't even necessarily think it's that the Flyers didn't have the value without Michkov and Martone. It was that not only did Vancouver have specific value needs they wanted met, they also had specific player type needs they wanted met. They wanted a NHL caliber, NHL ready, like middle 6 center. The Flyers did not have that. Minnesota did with Marco Rossi. Then they wanted a high-end defenseman prospect. The Flyers had, if the ask would have been, give us a quality NHL defenseman and a high-end center prospect, then it's a much easier sell to be like,
here's Luke.
We'll give you Cam York and we'll give you Jet Luchenko. But they wanted it the other way, and that was something that the Flyers could not come together with because they just didn't have those pieces. So I don't necessarily think it was that the Flyers didn't have the value to match a Minnesota offer. It was that they didn't have the pieces that Vancouver wanted. Now, might the Flyers have the pieces that St. Louis wants? That's a question for St. Louis.
Yeah.
Like, I think Tyson Forrester, Owen Tippett, the prospects they have, other guys, they could put together an offer that is theoretically compelling. But if Armstrong just doesn't like Tyson Forrester, he's scared about the injury. If he thinks Owen Tippett is too inconsistent, if he doesn't think Luchenko or Nesbitt or Berglund or any of the centers are just any good, then no. But I think in terms of raw value, yeah, the Flyers have enough first-round picks in their arsenal. They have enough quality young players that they could put together a compelling offer if St. Louis likes the players and pieces they have.
And another part of the comparison to the Hughes deal for me is those guys, Martone and Mishkov, off the table in that negotiation with a legitimate superstar player, but there was no guarantee. He's not even eligible till July 1st for an extension, and there was no guarantee they get there and he signs one. So it's like, yeah, we're not giving you that, even if it is a year and a half. He's got term, but like, okay, and then in a year and a half he goes to the Devils, and we have nothing.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. For this player, it's like, he's not that. He's not a superstar. You badly need centers, and he's very good, but he's not one of the two best at his position the way Quinn Hughes is.
Yeah.
Do you think, this is just a could they / should they, you've named some of these guys. When I look at that return and maybe some comparables, at least in value for what could be the Robert Thomas trade, Luchenko, Tippett, Andre, and a choice of 2027 firsts. Do you think that's enough? And would you part with all 4 of those pieces?
Would I?
Yes.
Yeah, I would. Because I would look at it as, yeah, you lose Luchenko, but you still have some other center prospects in the organization. Tippett, I don't want to lose Owen Tippett, but I'm on record as saying I would absolutely trade Owen Tippett in a deal to satisfy one of their biggest organizational needs, defense or center. This would do that. So, okay, you're going to have to clear out a wing at some point. This is a way to do it. You're getting a clear-cut top 6 center. Andre, I don't know if he fits long-term anyway. And then the first, like, you're going to have to give a first-round pick, at least 1, if not 2, to get this deal done. So I would do that deal. Now, would St. Louis do that deal? It depends on how they feel about Luchenko and Tippett, I feel like, mostly.
So that's the St. Louis side of this. I think the question you and I were talking before we started this, it feels like the Flyers name hasn't really come up at all. Like there's been this Robert Thomas underlying, and now it's blatant rumors out there. I heard Seattle's name talked about today. Why do you think the Flyers haven't at least had public interest? It hasn't come out publicly that they've picked up the phone and given Armstrong and Steen a call, be like, hey man, what's up?
Yeah, I mean, especially given the glaring need at center, you would think that the Flyers would be all over this. I said this before the show. We talked about it off air. To me, there's 3 possible explanations. Explanation number 1 is because Robert Thomas does have no trade protection. Robert Thomas doesn't want to come to Philly. That's explanation number 1, and that would stink, but that would explain why the Flyers aren't being rumored. Explanation number 2, the Flyers just don't like Robert Thomas. They don't think he's very good, and they're not willing to sell off some of their big assets to go all in and get this guy. Explanation number 3 is the most exciting one for Flyers fans, is Danny Briere is working under cover of darkness and he's radio silent, but that doesn't mean he's not trying.
And listen, they have been pretty good at keeping things under wrap basically since that last time they were negotiating with St. Louis. So my hope is like, hey man, remember that Sanheim trade that you kind of effed us on? It looked like we were incompetent. Maybe keep it quiet this time. Maybe keep it quiet a little bit this time. The reason I'm very interested in this, outside of just the glaring need at center, like we keep pointing out, they've really narrowed their field in terms of potential guys to come in here and be a 1C. A lot of the big names re-signed that surprised them a little. It probably shouldn't, because everyone re-signs in the NHL. We know they don't like Shane Wright. That goes back to his draft year.
Yeah.
I really, really doubt that they would play Kent Johnson at center if they're not playing Zegras there, who's bigger and got more experience at the position in the NHL. Even if Tockett's not the coach forever, they value his opinion. I don't think they're like, oh yeah, let's go get Pettersson at 11
He
mil.
wasn't giving them a glowing
I
endorsement
can't imagine.
of Elias Pettersson even before he became the head coach.
However, I will say Pettersson about to break the record for block shots by a Vancouver forward, so maybe he got to him. Maybe he's turned him into a grinder and he'll want him now. There's just not that many of these potential 1Cs available. I gotta be in on him because who the hell else are you gonna get? When is this perfect 6'3", 215-pound goal-scoring center gonna make himself available? That guy is never around. Austin Matthews ain't coming here, and when he does, if he does, he'll be like 32. Like, when is this thing actually gonna be possible to do? I just feel like all in, probably not the best way to put it, because all in would mean one of the two guys we don't want to trade for a player of this caliber. I don't want to trade them at all, but like, McDavid's available, have both. But like, that's not happening. At a certain point, you have to say, this is the best we can do. Let's build around this now.
Yeah, it's a reasonable point, and that is the risk you take. If you don't go heavy into this particular move, you are betting, and again, maybe they're right. You be betting that, no, these guys do become available, and when we're in a better spot, we will pounce. But there's a major risk there because they're not necessarily going to become available. Over the last year or two, maybe some have. Like Pettersson obviously was very available last summer. Nobody traded for him. Thomas is now available. So maybe more guys will become available, but you don't know. You're betting on total uncertainty, a total unknown, whereas this guy is available right now and you could plausibly get him.
And the available guys are always going to have some sort of warts.
Exactly.
Like it's never
Otherwise,
going
they
to
wouldn't be available.
Yeah, it's never going to be Nathan McKinnon.
Yeah.
Like that, unless you get lucky and draft him, like it's not happening.
Yeah.
So if you are going to go the acquisition route, it's going to be a player like this. He is 6 foot 207, so it's not like he's undersized. He's not huge, but he's over 200 pounds, and I feel like that's kind of
I really hope
a sticking point.
I really hope they're not worried about that. That would be insane.
I do think size is a little bit of a sticking point for them. Like sub 6 foot, sub 200-pound guys, not a lot of them are good centers in the NHL. Like it's a short list, and I do think based on what they've drafted lately, they're like we want big dudes.
Yeah, but it didn't scare them away from drafting Jetlichenko.
Super fast, and it's not like he's small.
And Robert Thomas is really fast too.
Yeah, so maybe that could weigh in. All right, we're gonna wrap up here in a second, but Charlie, before we do, this is our a little trade deadline edition of the Shootout. I want you to give me one name of a Flyer that could potentially be moved at the deadline that would surprise me a bit. Not Risto, Juleson, or D'Lo. A guy who might actually go in a deal.
I could see Andre. I could see Andre. I've always kind of had this feeling in the back of my head this season that part the reason why he's playing in a decor, that him playing makes a decor small. We know they don't want a small decor. I've always had an idea in my head that maybe they're playing him this much because they are trying to showcase him, because they figure keeping him in the AHL is not going to help his trade value. We play him in the NHL, maybe a team gets interested. I don't think they're going to like trade him for a third-round pick, but I could see him as part of a deal, maybe to increase the return on the other side. You throw Andre in. I'm not expecting it, but it wouldn't blow me away if he gets moved at some point in the next 3, 4, 5 months.
We've seen Danny set prices and then work with a team in order to get there. He makes nothing. Maybe he's a throw-in with Risto to be like, oh, give us that first, and you have this thing too. So it's not just a first straight up for Risto, like a lot of these trades have been, not straight up one for ones.
Would Carl Grundstrom surprise you?
You know what? That's a good one. I've thought about that.
Would that surprise you? Because he is an expiring contract.
I don't know about surprise because of the expiring contract, but just not a name I've thought of. I forget he's on the team a lot. But I do think like that would be, oh, okay. So they are like, that's good asset management. You got something for nothing, and he had a few good games. He's been in your rotation. He's been decent for you. You turn him into something, that's huge.
And there is an element where, my spidey sense is tingling a little bit when it's like this guy who never plays center is randomly playing center in the 2 weeks before the trade deadline. Is that intended to give this guy a little bit of extra shine where it's like, hey, you can trade for this guy. He can even play center in a pinch.
You know what? I like that explanation a lot better than after a couple games, the coach gave up on it again. I really do. All right. That is the Shootout. Thank you all for listening. Thanks for hanging out. Like, comment, subscribe. It does good for us, and you'll feel better. Talk to us here and not on social. It's way more fun.
You'll actually feel like a better person.
All right. I'm Bill. That's Charlie. Thanks to Brenna. Be excellent to each other.